Hello, everyone, and welcome to this segment of Dear Umair. Today's article was published on July 31st. Today is August 13th, 2021. Umair's July 31st article is entitled, Does Humanity Deserve to Survive? So I'm going to start reading. I'll make my background red while I'm reading, and y'all know the flow here. Jump in anytime, even if I'm mid-sentence reading, just interrupt me because I'll be focused on the screen on my phone reading the article, and we can talk about it in the moment. Just feel free to jump in. Don't hesitate. And we can, of course, talk after I've finished reading the article. So great to see you all here. Feel free to say hello at any time. Feel free to say hello, world. I'm sure everyone will love to hear your voice in addition to mine. So here goes. The background is red when I'm reading. It's not red when I'm finished reading or taking a pause from reading. Okay. Here we go. Does humanity deserve to survive? Will we be remembered as the most destructive, greedy, and rapacious species in history? Heavy stuff. And he's got a photo here of like one of those high-speed photograph. Well, you can't really see it too well with my background, but it's a high-speed photograph of a light bulb having a bullet getting shot through it. Here is a perplexing and important question that you may have asked yourself recently. Does humanity deserve to survive? It isn't a question with an easy answer. At this juncture in humanity's history, our civilization is boiling. Heat waves, floods, pandemics, authoritarianism, ignorance, and hate are spreading. Our systems are destabilizing. The future appears uncertain. Will we make it? Do we deserve to make it? The word should implies a perspective. This question can be asked from four different perspectives: from you, the individual, from humanity as a whole, from the planet, and from time itself. Let's begin. You might imagine that you believe humanity deserves to survive. You probably take it for granted and feel that believing humanity deserves to survive is what makes you a good person, a core foundation of your ethical and moral system. Many of us, probably most of us, would find it repulsive to even ask the question, do we deserve to survive? But do we really believe what we think we do? Do we really behave as if we are worthy of longevity? What if we investigate and interrogate this belief? Do we really believe humanity deserves to survive? If those of us who say we believe humanity deserves to survive actually believed such a thing, then we'd act very differently. We'd behave in a way that suggested we believe humanity deserves to survive. We'd make sure the planet had vaccines against COVID so that we didn't breed deadlier variants, killing more and more people. We'd make sure every child on planet Earth had medicine, education, sanitation, water, and food. But more than half of humanity lacks those things, which economists and social scientists called basic public goods. It isn't about right or wrong. We're just investigating your beliefs. Most people who think and say they believe humanity deserves to survive, it appears, are not telling the truth. For example, if you really believed humanity deserved to survive, you'd be taking steps to ensure it did. You'd be sharing what resources you had, protesting for the world to get vaccinated, working to bridge the gap between the rich West and the poor East. But chances are you're not. Does that mean people are innately selfish and always in conflict? We'll come back to that point. The point is, you probably say you believe humanity deserves to survive, but you don't. If you did, your behavior would be very different. Now, let's consider the question from the point of view of all of humanity. The very same evidence is true. as a species, we haven't ensured our survival at all. We haven't given every person or even every child on Earth medicine and healthcare. We haven't given every kid on Earth education. We're a far cry from even giving the world clean water, food, or sanitation. And in fact, that lack of sanitation is partly why we're dealing with COVID. We've built no systems to take care of our own species as a species because we're perpetually locked in hierarchical conflict instead. Think of the huge disparities across the world. While we sit in relative luxury in the West, many parts of the world have no clean drinking water. Does that sound like caring about humanity to you? Or does it sound like we believe only some people deserve to survive? So the evidence is clear yet again. Humanity itself doesn't believe humanity deserves to survive. If humanity believed it deserved to survive, it would be taking care of itself, all of itself. But it doesn't act that way, which allows us to draw the grim and strange conclusion: even humanity doesn't believe it deserves to survive. In this sense, we are a nihilistic species. The next way to think about the question is the redemptive one. Is there some kind of being out there who created us and believes we deserve to survive? The evidence is scant on this score. It's certainly okay to have faith if you need it, but even faith has to consider the following logic. If there was a God or creator who believed we deserve to survive, then why is he or she sending us catastrophe after catastrophe? The usual answer is that we are being tested. But a test implies some will fail. And so even a creator or deity does not believe humanity deserves to survive. Only some do. That is a chilling thought to have. Would you want to believe in a creator who thinks that many innocent human beings should not survive? After all, most of the people who are going to be killed off from heat waves and floods and megafires are not even the ones who polluted the skies. They are poor people who had nothing to do with the death of the planet. What kind of a creator thinks in such a way, punishing the innocent? And shouldn't a creator want all his children to live full and happy lives? The conception of a creator who exists to punish the innocent is a sadistic psychology. Is God a sadist who punishes the innocent and lets the guilty get rich? Logic suggests that if there is a creator or God, he or she doesn't think humanity deserves to survive, in both a weak and a strong way. The weak way is this: only some should make it, and they are the chosen people. The strong way is the chilling one. God doesn't appear to care about punishing the innocent and rewarding the guilty, which makes our creator appear to be a lunatic or a sadist, or both. In either case, if there is a creator, humanity surviving isn't very high on his or her list of priorities. The next perspective we can take is that of the rest of life. Does humanity deserve to survive from the point of view of every other form of life on the planet? The answer to this question is very simple. LOL, laugh out loud, no. Human beings are the first species to have caused a mass extinction of life on Earth. Before, it took supervolcanoes and meteors. Now it takes the proliferation of industrial civilization and consumption-based lifestyles. From the point of view of the rest of life on planet Earth, the best thing humanity could do would be to disappear overnight. The days of lockdown during the pandemic gave us strong evidence. Animals returned and inhabited cities. Life of all kinds flourished, not just ours. Presumably, animals value their own lives. So for their own sakes, they'd likely believe we don't deserve to survive. they'd certainly be better off without us. The same is true for plants and trees and even bacteria. If they could think and believe, they would strongly feel we didn't deserve to survive. Now, finally, we can take the perspective of evolution. Does evolution think we deserve to survive? Evolution does not think anything. It just is. Are we an evolutionary apex? The answer is probably not. Instead, we're a local maximum, a hill which leads to another valley. We're currently in the process of destroying our own environment. We're a species that doesn't take care of itself, and so we're unlikely to be an evolutionary apex for these reasons. We human beings are more likely to be a dead end in evolution, too destabilizing for a system to allow to survive very long. Now we can form our own conclusion. Who believes humanity deserves to survive? The answer, which might or might not surprise you, seems to be no one. You don't believe humanity deserves to survive. Humanity doesn't believe it. If there's a God or creator, he or she doesn't believe humanity deserves to survive. The rest of life on Earth doesn't believe humanity deserves to survive. Maybe that's why it isn't. Umair. All right, and with that, we are recording. Of course, I turn over the talking feather. And maybe let's give priority to James, who's staying up quite late to be hanging in here with us. No pressure, James. I'm just saying, if you have anything to say, please don't hesitate. Just jump in. Passing the talking feather.
Well, I'm still absorbing it at the moment, so.
No, that's fair. I'm happy to jump in. I just want to give priority to other folks, since I just did the reading. You know, I kind of, when I think about humanity as a whole, I feel a great deal of compassion and empathy, because as Professor Guy McPherson says, we were born into captivity. And when I first heard him say those words, I was like, wow, that's a fascinating thought. But it's true. We were born into captivity within a system that says, look, here's how the game goes. You have to go out there and make money in order to eat, in order to have a roof over your head. And you have to look out for number one, and you have to be ruthless. And, you know, we eat meat, we drink the milk of other animals, we slaughter those animals, we enslave them, we rape them. We do all this horrific stuff, but we don't think of it as horrific. That's just the way that it goes. This is just how it goes. And, you know, this whole thing about money, which is an addictive substance, my understanding is that it triggers the same receptors in the brain as heroin. And so it's almost like we're a bunch of crack babies from birth, you know, conditioned to be addicted to these addictive substances of money, ego, separation, hoarding, domination. It's beaten into us on the playground. And it's almost like, you know, we either make the deal with the devil and play the game, or what are we supposed to do? Commit suicide at age 7 and say, I don't want to play. I can remember being like 20 years old, you know, a couple years into college, and just saying, screw all this. I just don't want to play anymore. And I just like stopped. It was actually not even a year and a half into college. And I just kind of went on strike and just sort of said, no, I'm just sick of the whole game. And there were a couple of times I headed off to San Francisco with the intention of jumping into the Pacific and just swimming out until the end, right? Whenever, in whatever form the end came. That's how done I was with this whole thing of life. But when I got to San Francisco and got to Ocean Beach, I didn't have the huevos to do it. And I came back home and, just kind of whatever, life went on. That's why I talk about, making your deal with the devil. Here, I'm going to pause for a second. All right, welcome back. So anyway, I was talking about kind of how it feels to me sort of like, to live and survive on Earth. We kind of, I felt like I kind of made a deal with the devil at some point and just said, okay, I'm going to play the game. I may not like it. I may not like how unfair it is and how cruel it is and all this, but you know what, I'm going to go ahead and play the game. And I think part of what made it bearable for me is my dad, as an example, the late John Shively, he worked very hard to change things. And most of his scope of focus was the San Francisco Bay Area, local politics, local development. He took on the gambling casinos, the mafia, put a contract out on him, and a hitman came early one morning and tried to kill him, and they were unsuccessful. But so he was fighting the good fight and enjoying life, and I really loved living with Dad and just sharing life with him, and so that really made it bearable. And I think kind of like I hang out a lot with the crows here. Like a baby crow follows their mommy, and just kind of goes along with it. I was kind of like a baby crow following my daddy, and just learning from his example and talking through things with him. So but do we deserve to survive? I kind of feel like we're all sort of, again, kind of trapped on this weird sci-fi fantasy camping trip. I feel like I, and probably most of humanity, is born with kind of an innate sense or feeling that, yeah, we need to look out for each other and for the rest of life on Earth, and we need to do what's right. How do we do that in the midst of this cruel game, right? Where we have to make money to survive and have self-dignity and all this, and then it kind of bleeds into the ego realm and all that, and that's where it just gets really screwed up. And so it's like we're trying to play this game that at the same time we really don't believe in, because it's totally screwed up. Now that's why here we spend our lives changing the game and figuring out ways to change the game, like feeding everyone, making food a basic human right, cooling the planet, etc. Trying to give not just humanity, but all of life a chance at survival. And we know if that's going to work, we need to radically transform humanity herself. So I feel like I'm not so much playing the game anymore as I am, rebelling against the game, transforming the game. And, the question, does humanity deserve to survive? Well, duh, yes. I mean, humanity is a victim of all of history that brought us to this point, and being born into captivity, again, as Guy McPherson says. And it's just the only thing to do that makes any sense at all, either ethically, morally, from whatever perspective, is to transform the game and start and do what we can so that we for lack of a better word, orchestrate humanity into a transformed, enlightened state where life can actually be wonderful for every living creature. And we become the caretaker species. We stop murdering, enslaving, raping, and eating animals and the milk of other animals, and live in harmony with each other and the rest of nature. And I believe in my heart we can do it. Why? Because I've been on camping trips that were wonderful, and I've been on camping trips that were not so wonderful, and I know we can transform this camping trip. Anyway, with that, I'm going to pass the talking feather.
Jamin, I'll jump in and say something I think is kind of coincidental. I was with my friend tonight, and I was driving him back to his house. And he was, to be honest, he was pretty drunk. I don't drink, but he was pretty drunk. And he was just telling me about Valley Forge. I'm in the Philadelphia area, as most of you know, right? And he was like, everyone thinks the battle of the Revolutionary War was won at Valley Forge, but it was really won here. I said, well, where do you mean? And he goes, well, in Edge Hill, like we live right near town, or it's Edge Hill Road, one side. And I said, well, what do you mean by one? He goes, well, it was the bloodiest battle in the Revolutionary War. And I said, well, maybe that's an evolution of humanity. Just think about that. Like, we're celebrating the bloodiest battle, right? That's how something is being remembered. That's how something is being celebrated, that a shit ton of people died here, right? So maybe that's the evolution of humanity, where we can get to a point where we don't celebrate, violence and murder of humans, animals, or whatever it may be. And how that happens, who knows? But it's kind of funny that it's a conversation him and I never have, but it just came up out of the blue and we're talking about this tonight. So it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite sayings, I don't know if it was somebody else or if just the way I feel or whatever is, when the war is over, there are no winners, only survivors. And right now we're, there's also, you don't have to be religious to get a lot of use out of biblical sayings or sayings that sometimes aren't even necessarily biblical, but people think that's where they come from. But you reap what you sow. And right now we're sowing, we're reaping the destruction we've sown for decades. And if we want to have a better harvest, we need to sow better seeds. And that's where we're at right now.
Totally, Marco. It was interesting. I agree with all of that. And, one other comment that my friend made was, yeah, Americans, I can't believe how stupid we are, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I agree. And, these wars have been going on long before the Revolutionary War, or long before we, stole land from, the Native Americans that were here, and whatever it may be. I was like, this goes back, a longer time. I think it's more than an American thing. It's a humanity thing. And who knows? I'm not a history buff, but it's been a problem for a while, let's just say. And at some point it has to stop.
Well,
Right.
exactly. It's a simple case of that we're trying to live in the 21st century with archaic rules of society, and a society that's been controlled by the hierarchy through the ages now, as far as we can, look when you look back at it, like, and religions have been also used as and implemented in as a way of control. But exactly as Jamin was saying, we're born into a system, and we know no different, and we can only go by what the system is. Yes, we have free will and we can think for ourselves and everything else, but generally, as Jamin said, you're forced to kind of go with the flow, or you don't survive very long, basically, or you end up, you know, as people do, on the streets and houseless and starving and everything else. And some people don't even have the luxury of even getting the chance to try and get a job or have a drink of water or whatever. Point is, there's nothing bad that can be worse. There's always some poor creature out there worse than us, worse off than someone else. The point is, I used to think as well, like for a while, like if you looked at the globe at the Earth as an orange, I would consider the human species as being mold on that orange and eventually consuming it and destroying it anyway. Because history, as Marcus says, history speaks for itself. We haven't been a very good example for anyone to say, "Oh yeah, I think you should survive." You know what I mean? Because we're not given. If we look at it as a whole, like we don't deserve to survive because of our behavior. Now, that's one way of looking at it, yeah. But consciously, like if we were all consciously aware of the truth of our actions and the consequences, then yes, we would deserve to be, you know, not survive. But that's the problem, where we're born into a system and we're not all consciously aware of the truth. And we're not all consciously aware of the severity of what our actions are, because that's also been hidden from us. You know what I mean? Yeah, we know that we have climate change, and we know that even the IPCC are saying we have 10 years to do something about it drastically, but they're still lying to us. They're still saying we have another, you know, everything will still carry on, but it'll get bad, like, but we'll be grand, like if we get ourselves together by 2050 or something. It's all lies. It's all, you know, part of still the puppet show to keep us distracted. So until people are aware of the truth, consciously aware of the truth of what's really happening, then I think you'd see a different world where you'd say, yeah, that species does deserve to live because it'll fight back to survive. Sometimes when you're in the dark, you don't even know you're being killed. Like, so yeah, I think we do deserve to survive. But and we have no other choice now but to survive, because it's not just it's not just us that we're thinking about here at all. Unfortunately, it's no longer the case that if we did survive, bacteria or animals wouldn't really care. They'd get on without us. They won't any longer, because in our eagerness, we decided also to create nuclear power plants all over the planet. And I don't think the bacteria or the animals are going to take care of those should we disappear. And that's complete biosphere destruction. So we have now an even greater responsibility to survive, not just for ourselves, but for all of life on the planet. Pass the bit up.
Well, one thing is there are a significant number of people who seem to have a nihilistic vision or lack of vision, where it's all pointless and might as well have fun while the world burns, and who gives a damn about anything else except us or me or whatever their circle might be. Those, yeah, their point of view is much different than yours seems to be. I don't know how we deal with them, because it's a countervailing force that seems to be part of our nature, or at least a lot of people's nature. Always struggling over property, other feelings that we have, you know, jealousy, and even the world's existence, or our beliefs and all of that. It's a constant struggle. It can be pretty tiresome at some points. The other extreme is just boredom. You got nothing to do, nothing to think about, nothing to fight about. So people just want to fight because they're bored. I know I'm just rambling here and I'm late to the game. So I am an atheist. So you would think that, or at least some religious people would say that, well, without a God, without a meaning, and
instilled by God, then you're a real nihilist, or you don't care, or you don't have any morals. But that's not the case. I don't know exactly. I can see where they would think that, but I personally know it's not true for me and some other atheists I know. But I think it's different people's personalities, their chemistry, the way they were brought up, where they were born, all the usual things, nature and nurture and all that affects how they look at these things. And I don't think we're in any foreseeable future, we're going to find common ground. So we're going to keep struggling with these disputes about all these matters. And ultimately, we have to be within our own selves and try to find whatever peace we can, or acceptance, which is always a struggle for me. Still always dealing with that, it seems like. Not always, but too often it seems like. That is all for now.
I think on the question of whether humanity deserves to survive, there's a lot of different ways that people look at it. It's hard enough when as an individual in our own lifetime, we make mistakes. Sometimes the worst part of the mistake is not the mistake or any damage that was done, but the guilt that we struggle with. And when you're philosophical and more and caring people, which we seem to attract in this Zoom room, people that are more caring, empathetic, towards everyone else. We tend to carry not only our own guilt, but guilt from our peers and our ancestors, and it gets to be a lot. But the fact that we're here struggling over the things that humanity has done, and we're here wanting to correct it and making that effort, I think shows that we deserve to survive pretty much in a nutshell. I think that covers it. I'm complete for now.
I would just say, like, that at the end of the day, like, I mean, it's clear we're more or less aware, like, that we've lost our way, and that is down to our own, I suppose, egos and what have you, thinking that we're the superior species and everything. And that is what we did. That was the mistake therein. We separated ourselves from other species. Because there's all life on Earth is symbiotic in a sense, like, because it's all a circle of life, and it's everything, every organism, everything out there is necessary. The bacteria in your stomach, to everything is. The point is that we separated ourselves from it. We thought ourselves above it, and that it was for our use, and we plundered it. And the important thing to remember is that we did it, so we can change it too. We don't have to prove ourselves to be the species that deserves to be, wiped out. We could prove ourselves to be the species that deserves to be here and be the stewards of the planet. Passing the fed up.
Sometimes, we walk alone. Sometimes we lean on each other. And sometimes we carry the weight for many other people. And because they just don't know how to do it themselves. And for those that would sit by and just do nothing and, you know, party and just say whatever, we carry their weight, and when we pull through and we do what we need to do now, as far as stopping overheating of the planet so we do survive, then, you know, that'll be an example that these people desperately need. And maybe, you know, we should be moving towards a, you know, a new elevation and enlightening of society just by getting through this struggle now. It will create a better future, just because of the example of what looks like the minority of us will be doing to save all the rest. Pass the feather.
As the saying goes, evil triumphs when good people do nothing.
So is the converse true? Good triumphs when good people do something?
That's what I would say. There's always a reverse side to everything. You see, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we could, given our records thus far, like, and again, I would say not consciously for the majority of the planet, like the majority of the planet is not responsible for the destruction of our biosphere or in our habitats and, you know, the plundering of our planet. That's down to a small minority who are responsible for it. They're also responsible for the deception that's going on. And as Marco says, until people are enlightened to the truth of the severity of the situation, but also enlightened to the truth that there are capable, it is within our capability of trying to do something to prevent it or slow it down at least. Without the enlightenment, you can't do anything about it. Without knowing, you can't do anything about it. But yes, there's an opposite to everything. So yes, we do deserve to go given our track record, but we do deserve to survive as well, because we are capable of doing better. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, the whole thing looks like it's going down the shitter. Sorry for the language, like, but I'm Irish. But it seems like it's all going down the drain, of course, like, and everything seems negative and people are bogged down with their problems of the day, their own personal problems of the day, as Charlie was saying a bit there a while ago. And yeah, it's easy to get distracted, consumed with your own problems of the day, to not give really a thought to what's going on globally. But, you know, it seems like that is all going down the shitter, but the fact is that it can be all turned around as well with just a complete change of, you know, with a complete change of mind in our outlook as to what's really going on. I'm after losing what I was going to say there now, but it'll come back to me.
Well, just look at what we're focused on here. We're focused on providing plant-based food to everyone, to both feed everyone and show the world that, yes, we can live perfectly happy, healthy lives eating nothing but plant-based food, no animal products. We're focused on cooling the planet through a combination of decarbonization and solar radiation management. And through a combination of those two things, those are the two biggest factors in enabling the rest of nature to survive. Cool it down to a temperature where it's not being consumed either by wildfires or by animal agriculture. And as we prevail on both of these fronts, cooling the planet and eliminating animal agriculture and returning land to nature, I can't help but believe that the rest of humanity will be inspired and transformed and say, my goodness, there is goodness in the world. And, you know, how did all this come to pass? Through conversations? Conversation? Well, yeah, let's check it out. Boom. And jump into a Dear Umair session. Everyone's welcome here. Jump into a conversation about solar radiation management. Jump into a conversation about volunteering to plant trees, right? So we're doing everything we can because that's what there is to do. It's just as simple as that. And we're becoming enlightened ourselves as we seek enlightenment for everyone and everything. There's just nothing else to do but this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the point I was trying to make is that yes, we can all get bogged down with what's going on around us, and it does look like we deserve to be, you know, wiped out or whatever else, but we can turn it around because we can't forget that there is such great beauty in the world, and there's such great beauty in our human species too. Like, we're just not all bad. It's as simple as that. And I believe the greater majority of us are good, but again, the greater majority of us are in the darkest of the truth. So, yeah, definitely, that's our mission: get the truth out there. And sound like the X-Files now, I know, like, but that's about the size of it.
Sound like the what?
The X-Files. Get the truth out there.
The ex-wives.
X-Files.
Oh, I'm sorry, the X-Files. Okay. Gotcha, thank you. Yeah.
They're both very mysterious. And at least one of them has an answer.
Are you going to do another article, or are you going to stick with just this one?
I myself am getting pretty ready to call it a night. Personally, it's been a pretty long week, and we went for like nine and a half hours straight during the first stretch. So, and I also got to check in with the family here. So I think I'm ready to wrap it up myself. Sounds like James is getting kind of tired there as well.
Yeah, it is nearly 4:30 here. I'm ready for the clock, all right.
Yeah, it's almost 4:20 there. All righty. Well, on that note, any last comments before we wrap up this session of Dear Umair?
Thank you. I was on another Zoom and we were dealing with political issues and climate change there. It's not a vegan group, but there's a few vegans in there. So I'll go back to that, but it was nice to drop in here. Thank you.
Hey, great to have you, John. Come by anytime. You're always welcome here. Everyone is always welcome here.
Maybe you can put the thing in the chat so John can read some of his articles, because, like,
yeah,
you know, the guy's out of London and he writes every day, I guess he said. And Jamin's read a lot of stuff, but he writes a lot of anti-Trump messages. I mean, he's really hates Trump, but I'm sure you like that part. But he's really, I like the fact that I don't know if he's vegan, but he seems to really like animals.
Yeah. He has mentioned humanity killing and eating animals. I think he's mentioned it from the standpoint of too much of it. I don't know that he's vegan per se, but he is. I think I do see Umair undergoing his own transformation. So I've got a lot of hope for Brother Umair.
All right.
All right, I put his name and the platform upon which he publishes, medium.com, in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on Medium before, so okay, and then I just typed it in, and I'll put his name in there. Okay, Umair Hawk. How's it pronounced?
I believe Hake. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, John. Have a great night. Look forward to seeing you soon. All right,
Thanks.
any last comments for Umair and company before we sign off?
I think I've said it all.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I found it. All right.
All right. Thanks so much, John. Have a great night. See you. See you next.
Thanks, John. Take care. And
Yes.
come back again sometime soon, hopefully. And also to Umair himself, it'd be nice to have you and have a conversation with you sometime.
Yeah. Amen to that. Look forward to seeing you here, Umair. And your readers, all are welcome here. Okie dokie. With that, let's wrap up the recording.